Hello and welcome to this video. Whenever I sit down to record videos for a piece of software such as Photoshop Elements 11, I always have a bit of a dilemma in deciding where to start the tutorials from, where to pitch the level. So what I've decided to do here is to make an assumption and set this video aside perhaps. But this video is aimed at someone who is very new to image editing software. So to make a start, we're going to start right at the beginning by simply launching the software. Now I've got Photoshop Elements 11 on my bottom bar and I'm going to click to launch it. Within seconds of launching the software, we're given a panel which really asks us a question. It's saying to us, what do you want to do? Do you want to go to the organizer or the photo editor? Well, if you're brand new to image editing, how do you know which one to choose? So why don't we try to make some sense of this panel to help us make a decision now and in the future, and maybe we can even set this panel so we don't have to look at it every time we launch the software. Photoshop Elements 11 is actually made up of two distinct parts, and we've been asked which one of those parts we'd like to open up here. There's the organizer and the photo editor. The organizer is where we look for our pictures to open within the photo editor, so it probably makes sense that most of the time we're going to want to go to the organizer first. The organizer is a way we can browse the images we have on our computer, but it can do more than that. It can help us to get the images from our digital camera onto the computer, and it can also help us sort them if we wish. They're going to be personal choices to each individual. The photo editor is exactly what it says. It's the area where we do all of that clever work within Photoshop Elements, but generally speaking we'll be using images we've probably opened up from the organizer, because we use the organizer, I think, largely as a browser to find what we're looking for. If you look at the top right of this panel, you can see the familiar little cross which will close it down, but there's also another little symbol there which is becoming a universal symbol for more information. If I take you to that option and give it a click, you can see what happens. It says here that on start we can always launch the welcome screen, but we can choose to always launch the organizer. We can launch the photo editor from within the organizer. So let's select that so that every time we start Photoshop it comes up with the Elements organizer. Now, although I'm going to be doing quite a few videos here, you're going to need to get used to me saying Photoshop, but of course in this context I do mean Elements 11. So I'm going to click Done, and we'll go into the organizer for the first time. Now, as this is opened up on screen, it's opened up to a media folder, and it appears to have some music in there. Now, this isn't music I have stored on my computer, so I must assume it's music that's been included when we installed Photoshop Elements 11. Now, just for interest only, I'm just going to click this one at the top right because I recognize the piece of music, and let's press play. And I think that's enough of that. Now, what I guess we've got these pieces of music for is Photoshop Elements will also allow us to put together slideshows, so I think these are just a few samples of music that maybe you can use if you choose that option sometime later. Now, it's my intention to just take the briefest look at the organizer as we currently see it, because in another video we're going to look at how we can use this to bring images onto the computer. Let me take you down to the bottom bar for a moment, and we've got an option here which says Editor, and if we click this it's going to open up our image editor, but we've got a little arrowhead here which indicates there are other options available. When I select that, I can see I've got an external editor. I don't really have a clue what that is. I assume we could set something up if we wanted it. It's picking up the fact that I already have Photoshop installed on this computer as well. But the two options you're going to be most interested in are the video editor and the photo editor, and out of those two, the subject of this disc or this video is going to be the photo editor. So what we're going to do is click to open up the photo editor. While it's opening up, it's worth saying that there is a problem with modern software. Doesn't matter which one we buy, they are so packed with options that while that's great for us as consumers that they will do so much so well, it's not so good for us when we're trying to learn, because how do we know which tools we need to select from the hundreds and all of the settings that are given us? Well, that's where we come in, because we can offer you some solutions and some guidance to some of those questions. So here we have the main editor. This is where we're going to be doing most of our work. If I just go to File, Open, it's found already some of my images. I'm not entirely sure why. Let me just scroll down if it will allow me to. And we'll pick up something interesting for the screen so you can just get an idea of how the editor looks when we have an image on screen. If you look down at the bottom of the screen again where we selected to come into the editor, now the option is back to the organizer. But we've got some other options here and we'll look at those that we think are relevant as we go through the rest of the videos. Draw your attention to the top of the screen next, and we've got three options here. We've got a quick option which is going to enable us to very quickly make adjustments to the image, but here is where the software almost takes over and we hand over control of our images to the software and the decisions that the software will make, even though we're going to have some way of making changes manually too. We have a guided option as well, but what I'm going to dwell on here, because all of my tutorials are aimed at photographers, I'm going to concentrate on the expert section because I think that's where most people really want to be. They want to understand what they're doing and why. We're going to take a look at more detail in both the editor screen, which we're in now, and also the organizer screen, because I could just sit here and record an hour-long video that encompasses all of those, but then we'd have the same problem we have with modern software. How do you find the 2 minutes of information you want from 60 minutes of video? So we're going to try to keep our videos short and targeted so you can actually learn one section at a time, because we all learn better when we pick up information a little bit at a time. So we've had a brief look at the organizer, and we've also had a brief look at the editor screen, the expert section. What I'm going to do now to bring this section of the video to a close is to close down the editor and also close down my organizer. Because remember, we set up that splash screen right at the start, so let's just finish off by testing to make sure that what we did is what we expect. So I'm going to click to open this up, and what this should do now is open up directly into the Photoshop Elements 11 organizer. And there we are. So let's just assume that we're sitting in front of our computer. We've got a basic idea of how Photoshop Elements now is broken into two parts. We've got a card full of images from our camera. Where do we start? Well, let's look at that in the next video.